Jen! Hey there, Enthusiacs. Welcome back to Hero Talk. I am your host, Judge Greg. Joining me today, I have Jeff and Jen. Guys, welcome back to Hero Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, today's film is The Mask, and hopefully my recording doesn't just crash on itself like the last time we started this podcast. But if it doesn't, then, hey, we got a pretty good episode for you, because it's The Mask. And as always, Hero Talk is a spoiler podcast. Nothing is off the table. Everything is fair game. You've been warned. All right. So for those of you listening at home, a little behind baseball, this is now like the third time we've tried to start this podcast.
I have deja vu.
So I am going to once again tell you what I think of this movie. I don't want to say this again. I don't. I feel like we already got it out there, not 10 minutes ago. But yet, here we are, about to tell you what I think of this film. I really feel like the first take was the best one. So I don't know if I can top that. But anyway, hey guys, did you know that I actually used to watch the cartoon of this show?
No.
I didn't know that.
Wow, you didn't know that? Because I totally told you that 10 minutes. All right, yeah. So this is a situation where I had seen the cartoon long before I actually saw the movie. I think the first time I saw this was probably a DVD. I don't even think I saw it in the VHS release. Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
I have to change it this time because I just can't say the same thing again. It's going to seem so disingenuous. Oh, that's very interesting. So I'm just going to say some different stuff about it. So yeah, I actually didn't see this until a DVD release. But I saw the cartoon quite a bit. I never read the comic. Did read a Batman or Joker mask crossover. Joker puts the mask on and then he kills a bunch of people. The comic was dark. It was very dark. The movie was not. It was supposed to be dark. It was supposed to be like a slasher horror almost. I mean, like a dark horror, but like the mask. It was supposed to be he puts the mask on and he kills people. But I guess maybe that didn't quite work. Especially you can't be as cartoony as this and then have Jim Carrey out there with like an axe cutting people in half.
Yeah,
That would seem wrong to me.
He saved his dark turn for the cable guy, and we all know how that went down.
So did the comic come out before the movie?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I kind of had a sense that it was inspired by a comic, but I didn't know for sure.
Yeah. Now, I had no idea. I would say it was only maybe about 10 years ago that I actually came across the comic book for the first time. So I had no idea. So,
yeah.
But anyway, so that's The Mask. There's a little bit of old, little bit of new there in that rundown. So Jen, I'm dying to know because I have no idea. What did you think of The Mask?
I'm going to shock you right now.
Yeah.
I watched it when I was very young. I mean, I want to say the year it came out, but I don't remember seeing it in theater. So probably as soon as we could get our hands on a rental VHS. I feel so old. We watched it when I was young. My whole family loved it. I adored it. As a young kid, I think it was really appealing to me because there were certain aspects that were very cartoony. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make the same reference as before. I adored Roger Rabbit, and I think, again, as a kid, it's kind of cool to see something that has cartoon aspects in a live action world. So I really, really liked that a lot. It had been so long since I had seen it, though, that when I just recently watched it, it was kind of disappointing because it wasn't quite as lovable now. Obviously Jim Carrey wasn't at his finest in The Mask. He's very, very funny. He can stand there and make me laugh. But yeah, not my favorite of his. There was just the one joke that I cracked up at because, again, it's been so long. There was one little joke in there that I loved because it would go over your head as a kid. Mm-hmm. And that was, of course, when he pulls out a condom and goes, sorry, wrong pocket. So, yeah, that I got a really good laugh from that. Otherwise, I'm kind of disappointed in it now.
Yeah, now I heard that was ad-libbed, which really makes me kind of wonder, like, so did he just, like, pull a condom and, like, say, like, oh, I'm going to pull this out when they're filming and be like, oops, and see what they say, like...
I mean, I have a feeling that he probably works that way a lot, and a director that's directing Jim Carrey can probably expect anything.
Yeah, I know a lot of the scenes with him and the dog were ad-libbed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like there's the one in particular is where when he has all that cash and he's trying to hide and the cops are at his door and he's trying to hide the cash and the dog grabs the frisbee, so he's like lifting the dog up and trying to get him to let go of the frisbee and trying to hide the cash. He's getting frustrated. The dog wasn't supposed to grab the frisbee.
Oh my gosh.
The dog just did it and he just rolled with it, and it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie And I think because anytime that you have Jim Carrey and a Jack Russell Terrier ad-libbing off each other, I think you have comedy gold, quite frankly.
Yeah.
That's a lot of energy.
Yeah, that's a lot of energy. Just think about what just happened there. Jim Carrey and the Jack Russell Terrier both went off script. And they just kept filming.
And magic was had.
And then that's what they put in the film. So I don't see how you could get any better than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, what did you think of The Mask?
I did not see it in theaters. I did see his other two movies that came out that year in the theater, in Dumb and Dumber and Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you would have called this reaction cynical, but when I saw the film advertised, and I didn't know what term vehicle meant at the time, but I assumed that this was a vehicle that had been created specifically for Jim Carrey to play off his, rubber-faced depression comic sort of reputation. And it was just like, come on. Like, are you really just going to build a character specifically to make as much use of Jim Carrey's talents as possible at the expense of, any real story or anything? I had no idea it was an actual property, an actual comic. I did like the CGI quite a bit, and I liked the feel of Edge City, the sort of 40s type aesthetic to it, where it was set in the modern day, but
yeah,
kind of like the Keaton Batman.
I love that aesthetic just in general, like the kind of the 90s as envisioned by the 60s.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it kind of helped that there was that sort of swing phase, popularity phase that was going on at that time in the 90s.
Oh gosh,
I'm sure that was no coincidence that they were kind of capitalizing on that a little bit. But yeah, I found it pretty tiresome, to be honest, and I still more or less feel the same years later. It's just too much Jim Carrey, I say that as a fan of his, and I was a big fan of Ace Ventura, and that wasn't exactly a film where he was, he wasn't exactly low energy and just fading into the background in that movie. But for some reason, the humor here, which was a lot of impressions and silliness, it wasn't that familiar. It just didn't work for me. I found a lot of the musical scenes to be pretty corny too. I do have to say though that 20 years later, I found the CGI held up very well.
Yes.
I didn't expect that. I can see why it was nominated for effects awards, because when I consider that this film looks as good in terms of CGI as some films that are out now, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, it's definitely dated, but at the same time, it's kind of a scenario where it can look dated, because if you think about it, the Mask is basically perpetuating old cartoons. So if it looks kind of dated and cartoony, that's how the Mask would represent it.
Yeah.
At least that's what I tell myself. I don't know.
Well, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not quite as timeless as Roger Rabbit, whereas, I mean, it's only been in the advent of HD TVs and 1080p and 60-inch televisions that I can even now start to see some of the work behind the effects of Roger Rabbit. Whereas for this one, I mean, it was, what I did find interesting though is because I was looking for the CGI, because apparently there was supposed to be like a lot more CGI in it, but as it turns out, Jim Carrey can just kind of behave like an animated character.
Yes,
so there was a lot of times where something was supposed to be CGI, and they just stuck with what Carrey did, because it was better than anything they were going to be able to do digitally.
I've also heard, and I don't know if this is completely confirmed or not, that when he had those giant fake teeth in while he has the mask on, that he wasn't really supposed to talk as much as he was. He was supposed to be a lot more silent, but he learned to talk with them in so well that they added a bunch of lines. I don't know if that's true, but I could totally see that being accurate.
Now what I'd heard is the big teeth were supposed to be for things where when he's in robbing the bank, and you see him in the camera, and so he has this big old giant smile.
Yeah.
And I guess what happened is Jim Carrey, he liked him so much, how he looked with him, that he learned to talk with him so that he could just keep him in for all his scenes instead of for just scenes where he was supposed to not talk and be silent and look
That's
silly.
Classic Jim Carrey. I like that.
Yeah. So he decided these are too funny for me to have to take them out to do my talking scenes. So I'm just gonna keep him in, and he learned how to deliver his lines. I mean, he did, in terms of his performance, I actually think this is probably one of his better roles. Now, obviously, he's done some stuff that really kind of sharpened his teeth on acting a lot more than The Mask, obviously. But I mean, it kind of shows that this was he takes his craft a lot more seriously than look at the silly faces I can make, you know.
Yeah. Well, no one else could have played this role.
Oh no.
Like, I think that's why I had the reaction that, you know, this must have been something just created specifically for him, because it seems like it was.
I
mean,
thought
it
so
does.
too. Yeah.
And he signed this before Ace Ventura came out, so he was not a household name. He got paid like $450,000 for the film. He got it on the other end though, because then Ace Ventura came out, and then he signed Dumb and Dumber and got a ton of money, and then he signed Batman Forever and made so much money that Michael Keaton got mad and left. And I mean, I don't know what he makes now, but he gets ridiculous box office whenever he makes them.
Yeah.
And I'm not typically a Jim Carrey fan, although he's made some movies that I do happen to like. Liar Liar is still probably one of those cheesy movies that I will always love that he did.
So good.
I liked The Truman Show.
Mm-hmm.
I actually liked Bruce Almighty. I know that one's kind of cheesy, but I did like Bruce Almighty.
I feel like The Truman Show was where he really got to start showing that he could be a proper actor too.
Yeah.
And have really emotional scenes.
Oh yeah. The Truman Show is an underrated movie, but I think he did phenomenal in it. So we should probably talk about some other people that were in this film. So this was Cameron Diaz's first role. Yeah. It played Tina Carlo. Yeah, this was her first role, I think, outside of softcore pornography. I'm not sure what the timeline was or when she was doing softcore pornography, but I know she did softcore pornography at some point.
I did not know that.
I couldn't tell you what or where or how. It was on one of those lists of... No, it was. You ever see some of those lists? And this had to have been on. I don't know what sites do it. Like these 10 celebrities got their start in porn.
That you didn't. Yeah.
That you didn't know got their start in porn. I'm like, well, that's pretty presumptuous of you, article. But I was like, the two that stick out in my head were her and Sly Stallone.
Yeah, that'd be them.
Yeah. I can't think of anybody else who was on that list. Probably because I either didn't recognize them or they were just like...
Well, David Duchovny was in the Red Shoe Diaries, and that's pretty risky. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know that I'd call it porn, but it was pretty adult, for lack of a better word.
Well, I mean, I honestly, I've never seen Sly Stallone or Cameron Diaz's films, so I don't know if they were like legitimately porn or if it was just like there were nude scenes, and so this article, you know, because online articles don't necessarily have the highest level of journalistic integrity, those might not have actually been pornographic films. But I'm going completely off rumor here, and I'm going to go ahead and say this right up front, so Cameron Diaz's people can't sue Hero Talk. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Of course she listens.
They all listen.
They all listen. Every single one of them. Yeah. I have no idea. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I might have just been talking out of my butt there. I don't know what I'm talking about.
We're not about fact checking here.
No, that is way beyond the scope of what I have time to do. I don't got time to fact check. I got time to read some top 10 lists and just spew it back out in the microphone. That's about what I got time for. Yeah. You think I got time for research? This isn't Point Streak. I can't be reading all kinds of stuff and learning things and asking pointed questions. No.
Coming up with quizzes and stuff.
Who's got time for that?
Who's got time?
Not this guy. All right. So, but it was Diaz's first feature film role, and
I can believe that, having seen the performance.
Yeah. She wasn't super. Now she didn't do the singing. She had somebody else do the voice for the singing.
Yes.
I couldn't tell you who, and I'm not going to look it up.
I think it's Susan Boyd. I just read her name earlier today.
Susan Boyd, huh? I don't know who that is.
Let me double check. Yeah, it was someone I didn't recognize either.
So yeah, I mean, she was there to serve her purpose. They thought about casting Anna Nicole Smith, which would probably be not as good.
Yeah.
Vanessa Williams, which kind of seems like this role was beneath her, and Christy Swanson. Now, Christy Swanson, that was Buffy, right?
Yeah, the original Buffy.
Yeah. So I don't know. It wasn't a big role, so it's not like Diaz was like, oh, glad it was Cameron Diaz. I mean, she didn't do much of anything.
Wait, OG Buffy?
Yeah, the Buffy from the movie before the Buffy from the TV show.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a movie before it.
Yeah, with Christy Swanson and Luke Perry. Is that right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Paul Rubens.
No.
Oh, yes. That's right. Oh man, I had completely shut that memory away, but
yes, and it was Susan Boyd who
sang
for
all right.
Diaz. Yeah.
So good job, Susan Boyd.
Yeah, thumbs up.
Wherever you are out there in Hero Talk Land. All right, so let me think who else is in this. So Amy Yazbek, people might remember her. She's been in like a bunch of Mel Brooks films.
Yeah.
She was married to John Ritter before he passed. We just got sad here. I apologize for that. That went dark.
She was on Wings.
She was on Wings. She didn't start on Wings. She came in towards the later half of Wings. I've actually seen the whole run of Wings. Don't judge me. I like Wings.
Well, I've never seen it. So I think
it's set in New England. It's a local show for you, right?
Yeah, on Nantucket Island. I got to tell you though, I want to go to that airport. I wonder how many people go there. Just look around. It was the show that launched Tony Shalhoub's career.
Yeah, Monk.
He played Antonio Scarpacci on that show, and then went on to play Monk, and then win all the Emmys.
All the Emmys.
All the Emmys. So Amy Yazbek played Peggy Grant, who was also, she was in the cartoon show. I don't know if Amy Yazbek was. Peggy Grant was. And I point that out. The cartoon was set after the movie, where Stanley finds the mask again somehow. I don't know. I don't remember.
Didn't his friend jump in the water at the end and grab it?
Yeah, his friend and Milo jumped in after it at the end. So I don't know. In the show.
So I guess it was just that it was still around him.
Yeah, it was still around him. It came back to him. He became the but nobody knew it was him because he just was like, I threw it away. Remember, you all saw me. So. Yeah. But she was in it, and that's important to point out because there's a deleted scene where the gangster guy, what was his name, Tyrell?
Tyrell, yeah.
Yeah, where after he becomes evil Tyrell mask and gets to keep his hair for some reason, he kills Peggy. But they decided that was a little dark. Well, that was a little dark, and they were thinking at the time, like, well, she'd be a good person to bring back if we did a sequel.
Yeah.
And that did, when I think about it, I'm like, that would have been a little harsh.
Yeah.
You know, like, this movie did try to keep it jovial. And I think if you show her murder, like, even though she was, you know, kind of a jerk about things, her getting murdered would have probably taken it down a darker path, and I don't know if I would have liked it as much.
And you know, it's always my practice to scroll through the cast and see what horror movies any of them have been in, and I was kind of disappointed and didn't really find any.
Yeah, I think
this is a hero talk first.
Yeah, I think the most famous member of the cast that was been in a famous hero talk movie would have been the auto body shop at the beginning of the film.
Yes.
That's about as good as it gets, because that was the Ghostbusters auto shop.
Yes, it's a fire station former fire station in downtown LA, fire station number 23. A lot of things have been filmed there, including the Ghostbusters interior of the firehouse.
I recognized it right away. I stopped the movie so I could go look it up, because I was like, that has to be it, right? Because he walks in and he's walking along, and I got like a real Dana Barrett vibe from that. Like, he's in the door, he's coming towards me. I'm like, am I going nuts? Is that the same firehouse?
I was thinking that too when I was watching it, and I completely forgot until I was just scrolling IMDb today and came across that little fact. So that was cool.
Yeah. By the way, Jim Carrey wasn't the only member of this cast that had a really big 94-95. Peter Green, the aforementioned Tyrell the mobster, he was in Pulp Fiction, The Mask, and The Usual Suspects in a span of like 14-15 months. That's not bad.
Yeah, I remember for a while he was in everything.
Yeah.
I mean, not as much as it felt like Jim Carrey was. And they advertised this movie so much. Yeah. Like, I don't know how many times in an hour of watching TV, you would see Jim Carrey go smoking. Yeah. Honestly. I mean, it seemed like it was every 5 minutes. They'd stop the show just to show you that and go back to the show.
Who did you say Peter Green played?
Peter Green was Dorian Tyrell, the
big
okay.
monster.
Because it just says Dorian on IMDb, and when you said Tyrell, I'm like, I don't think that's his name.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what. I'm so bad with names sometimes.
Oh, me too.
So I know it's credited as Dorian, but I think the character's name was actually Dorian.
We should just say Dorian. Every time you say Tyrell, I think of Blade Runner, and I'm off on another tangent.
Well, that's funny. Another hero talk for another time.
It's funny how memory works. And as much as I'm familiar with Peter Green, particularly from those two other films, which I love him in. I mean, he's Zed from Pulp Fiction, and he's Redfoot from Usual Suspects. In my head, before Jen and I watched this film, I swear to God, I thought Robert Davi was the villain.
Really?
I had managed to, and actually, it's funny when you see Peter Green with the evil mask on, he actually looks like Robert Davi.
You know, he kind of does.
A green Robert Davi, but still.
He's really scary when he has that mask on. They made him look really.
They made him look really freaky. Well, the idea is the mask kind of amplifies whatever's underneath. Yeah. I think that's what they were going for.
I think they even say that.
So which is why Stanley Ipkiss, when his character basically is kind of an amalgamation of
cartoon loving.
Yeah, it's Tex Avery's Wolf and Pepe Le Pew and trying to think what other, the Tasmanian Devil, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's spinning around in a tornado.
Yeah.
Kind of what you wish you were, so to speak.
Yeah, but this guy was kind of a jerk. Although the thing is, it's Loki's mask, right? Like that's the whole. They went into this lore a lot more in Son of the Mask, which is a travesty of film, and we will never do a hero talk on.
I've never even seen it. I don't want to.
Oh, it was starring Jamie Kennedy. Just FYI.
Apparently,
God, yeah, that's right.
Ben Stein reappears in the sequel.
He does. Ben Stein will show up anywhere if you cut him a check.
He pops up in the most random places sometimes.
Yeah, but so I want to say in that movie, like, Loki and Odin actually show up in Son of Mask to hash out whatever's going on between them. So again, that's the direction this went in.
Wonder if his Loki holds up to the current.
It does not. No,
current,
it does not.
Darling.
It does not. Now, Tom Hiddleston showed up, then that might have actually been a movie worth watching. But that was, anyway, we're not going to talk Son of the Mask. We're done with that. But yeah, he looked, Dorian looked pretty downright weird. Although it still kind of upsets me that he kept his hair.
Right?
There's no reason for that at all.
Yeah.
Especially because, he looks so dramatically different for that reason. And then the mayor walks out like, Dorian Tyrell is the Mask. I saw it myself. Like, he doesn't look anything like the Mask that you guys have been tracking down. This is, you're acting like just suddenly having a green face is all you need to convict somebody, It was a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, alright. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else in the cast I really want to go over, and there's nobody.
It's just such a forgettable cast, apart from, like, those top 4 or 5 roles.
Well, I mean, what else do you want from, it's a 90s movie, alright? A round out full cast isn't really gonna do it. So I guess the thing that I remember liking better than I really was is just how over the top they tried to kind of kick Stanley Ipkiss around in this flick.
Yeah.
Like he can't watch TV at a reasonable volume. He's always getting yelled at. And there was a scene that was cut where he gets robbed by the same thugs that he meets up later as the Mask.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to have stolen his watch, which is why when Mrs. Freeman asks him if he knows what time it is, he says, "Actually, I don't," because he just got his watch stolen.
Yeah.
I wish they had kept that. Dynamic.
It would have been a little over the top because, I mean, his car has just died. The loner was ridiculous.
True. A little too much.
He got kicked out of the club because his buddy there was a jerk.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew a guy who did that to me once.
Really?
Yeah, he went in and then there was like, I couldn't get, it was some stupid club where it was like you couldn't go in if you weren't, I wasn't up to the dress code for whatever, and I don't remember exactly what it was at this point either, like, I don't remember. I wasn't up to the dress code of this club. So my buddy got in. He's like, "Oh, well, I'll just be out in a little while." And I think, well, I'm obviously not waiting for you, so I went somewhere else. Yeah, but poor Stanley. And then his car was a piece of junk.
While he's talking to her, and then the valet brings it around. Remember that? I don't know if that was the same night or not.
Yeah, that was the same night. It's so
painful
awful to watch. It's hard. It's really hard to see Stanley, and you start to you feel better when he starts to stick up for himself.
Yeah.
But here's the weird thing: in the cartoon, they have this whole episode where like he starts to stick up for himself more and become more assertive and basically be more outgoing, and the result of that is it negates his ability to become the Mask. Like when you don't have anything under the surface that is waiting to come out, the Mask doesn't have anything it can do with you. So he can't become the Mask. So when he starts doing that in the film, I think they're going to do something with that. Like, oh man, he's not going to be able to become the Mask, Like he had to re-introvert himself basically in order to be able to become the Mask.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And the idea was he wanted to not be the Mask, but like he needed the Mask's power to like save the city from a bomb, and I think he ends up eating the nuclear bomb.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to.
Meatball.
I want to say like what he does is he basically like he runs up, like he flies up to where the thing is, and he puts like bologna and salami and mustard and stuff on it, and then he flies back down and he looks at the camera and goes, "Yeah, that's right, I'm gonna eat it." The cartoon was funnier than me.
It would work very well as a cartoon. I'm sure I watched it at some point. I just don't remember it very well.
Yeah. I will say, though, the wedgie gag gets way overdone in the cartoon. Way overdone. Because it's the same two cops, and he's always giving them wedgies. This way, everyone gets a wedgie. That's what, I mean, like, it's basically the end of every scene that the mask is in. He gives everyone a wedgie, and then he spins away.
Well, it's the same thing with the real Ghostbusters cartoon. Slimer slimes somebody, like, every episode to the point where you're like, oh, look, someone got slimed again.
Yeah, that's true. And it's usually Peter. It's usually Peter.
It's usually Peter, yeah.
Yeah, but, so I really thought they were going to go somewhere with that, but they didn't. But I will say that, like, I like some of the scenes in it. Like, I had a lot of fun with it, especially, you know, I think one of my favorite scenes has to be where Milo gets the mask.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
So there was a lot of fun parts, and then Stanley gets to say, like, well, what does the guy say to him? I'm trying to think what the line was where, you know, the guy's like, I'm going to laugh when you're dead. He was like, well, I'd like to see you do that with one freaking eye. He jabs him in the eye. Which, even in my most recent viewing, that line still actually makes me laugh because it's so played over the top. But, yeah. But then I gotta echo what Jeff said. There are some parts that just don't seem to work as well. Like the entire Cuban Pete thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit much, and it's a bit drawn out.
Yeah, that's like where you go and I get a drink.
Yeah.
Maybe go 2 times speed. Yeah.
Like Stanley, I did have a watch and I was looking at it pretty much.
Yeah, those 2 times I think were probably the worst. That and when he was making the balloon animals for the gang. With the 2 times I'm like, okay, the gag has gone on a little too long. We need to get some resolution, please, for the love of just something.
Just get to the weapon already. Yeah.
Now here's what's another thing that's kind of strange. So the police, as they're tracking down the mask, and so you have this whole subplot of the lieutenant and his bumbling sidekick there, and I don't remember the name, trying to like figure out who the mask is, and they figure out it's Ipkiss because of the ugly piece of pajamas that he has.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, doesn't just a really, really quick glance be like, hey, did anybody see a person here in pajamas? No? Huh, alright. Like, that's, you know, it's not really like they have a lot to go on. Nobody saw Stanley there, period. Not a single person, so he shouldn't be as nervous, other than the fact that he's got giant, massive piles of cash hanging around inside his apartment. But it was just, it was a little odd to me that the cop would zero in on him like that, which is just, the only reason that would ever happen is because it's a movie.
Oh yeah. There's always allowances for movies.
Yeah, that one I didn't like as much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I don't think they'd earned it, basically.
Yeah,
and
I tend to agree.
Yeah, and there's this whole part where, like, during the first interview, where they ask him, like, if he didn't heard anything, and they're like, oh, they discharged the firearm, you didn't hear it, and he makes up this story about an inner ear. You don't need to make up a story. You can just say, no, I honestly didn't hear it. I'm a deep sleeper. What do you want? Like, why make up an inner ear infection? It felt like it was there for kids, and this is a PG-13 movie, so it wasn't exactly there for kids, but...
Right.
No.
Yeah, it was just unnecessary.
Yeah. Alright. I think if there's anything else significant about the actual movie itself, other than nice to see Ben Stein.
Yeah. Nice little cameo. He's the perfect guy for this really dry recitation type, you know.
His character is
in every movie.
Yeah, the character is actually, he's a much bigger role in the cartoon. He actually becomes Stanley's personal psychologist. And the entire time he does not believe the mask actually exists. No, Stanley straight up says, I'm the mask, but the guy does not believe the mask actually exists. He believes it's a persona that Stanley has created for himself.
Right.
Which is odd because the actual mask does exist, was in the news. There was a manhunt out for him. Like,
Doctor's in denial.
Yeah. It's like, it reminded me of in Ghostbusters, where, like, in Ghostbusters 2, everyone's like, I don't believe in ghosts. Like,
oh, jeez, yeah.
Seriously? The dead rose from the grave. There was a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walk down the street. How do you not believe in ghosts at this point? It felt like that same thing, like, oh yes, your quote-unquote mask persona. Like, dude, it's on the news every night. He ate a nuclear missile. What do you want from me? Anyway, yeah, I don't think they'd quite earn that one.
No.
Alright, so that's The Mask, basically. I mean, I don't know what else to do with it.
I feel like we're hitting a wall here.
You could mention the music, but and I suppose for someone who actually liked the music, that type of music, it would be notable. But I mean, I found it so tiresome that I didn't really see it as a highlight.
Well, I mean, there was the Cuban Pete, there was the dance in the Coco Bongo Club.
Where he's dancing with her?
Yeah, where he's dancing with... I mean, it's just... I don't know. The 90s were a different time. What can I say?
I really like his scenes where he gets to jump into different characters, and he wasn't just the mask character, like he did his Dirty Harry, and he... Which is a joke because Jim Carrey's actually been in a Dirty Harry film. Yeah, and I just read that. I had no idea. I've never seen that one.
Yeah, he was in the Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
And I like when he does his acceptance speech.
That was the best part of that is where he goes to leave and he goes the wrong way because that's what they always do every time. Is he goes like, oh, this way? Okay. And he turns around.
So those little parts I think are cool, and they made me laugh. And
Those
when
were
he's
funny.
playing dead and he's coughing on the guy.
Yeah, those were few and far between though.
Oh yeah,
and then
definitely.
So here's a scene. We almost forgot about this scene. We have to talk about it because it was awful. So when the mask goes on his first let's even rewind to the whole Cameron Diaz comes in. I'm sorry, I forgot Tina Carlisle. Comes in, wants to meet the mask, and Jim Carrey's like, "Oh, I know him. We went to college together." That's like when Clark Kent goes around to the Daily Planet going like, "Yeah, I'm friends with Superman." Like, really? Because we've never seen you two together. He never really mentions you, and he's not in any photos with you or anything. And that time you threw that barbecue, wouldn't Superman have shown up if you were so good friends? So he plays that role, which is just tired and worn out. So they set up the date, and he shows up, and he's full on Pepe Le Pew sexual assault mode, and it's so over the top and awkward. I'm like, this is supposed to be the hero, and he's being a real skeeve right now, like.
A little creeper.
Yeah, it's totally creepy. I'm like, because obviously in the children's cartoon, this sort of thing never came up.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of disturbing to see. I'm like, I'm having, listen, you can get behind it like Stanley Ipkiss. Stanley Ipkiss just is kind of like the everyman nice guy.
Yeah, very likable.
The mask is supposed to be like the heroic alter ego. Or at least that was my perspective because I watched the cartoon. And now granted, the original direction was supposed to be a dark horror. He was supposed to be killing people. So I suppose this is a little better than killing Cameron Diaz. But I mean, it was so creepy. And you're losing me. I'm no longer in the mask's corner. I'm really. At this point, I'm like, I don't want him to have the mask anymore. I want him to get rid of it.
Take it off and be a nice guy.
Yeah, take it off and stop being a creeper.
They really, because it's a movie, they always want, I feel like every movie wants to focus on some sort of love interest or relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think they really focused a lot on him not being that good or that confident around women. Mm-hmm. And they focused so much on that it's almost like his mask version had to be a total Casanova. But he wasn't smooth Casanova. It was, like you said, kind of skeevy.
Yeah.
You're kind of tone it down just a little bit, and you can still get the girl.
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of
you definitely felt like you should be calling a police officer.
And
she just falls for him.
Yeah, she's falling for it. And I'm like, this is really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, bear in mind who she's dating at the time previously, and suddenly it doesn't seem as bad.
It still seems kind of bad. I'll say that. I'm really happy. At least I do have the one heroic mask character I can get behind, which is Milo as the mask.
Oh yeah.
Milo Mask is how I'll call him now. So I don't know if that's official. I just made that up. So
I like it.
Is that incorporated into the cartoon at all?
Oh yeah. Milo puts on the mask more than once. There was the Ace Ventura crossover where the monkey and Ace Ventura's butt actually wore the mask.
Wow.
But yeah, Milo, it's not like an every episode thing, but very often Milo will get the mask on and do stuff with it. You have to love Milo in this movie.
Oh yeah. Such a good little doggy.
Yeah. What I really like is when the mobsters are going after Milo and you're like, oh no, he's going after the dog. And you know how I am with going after the dog. I'm like, don't put the dog in peril. And then he gets the mask on and basically just gets to wreak holy revenge on everybody.
With a great big smile. All those teeth. Does he pee on someone?
I
Doesn't
think
he just lift his leg at some
He
point?
sure does. He sure does. Oh, I actually was. That's great. And so I think that's the only payoff that I will ever allow for putting a dog in peril if it leads directly into him putting on the mask. And they should really do that in more movies. I would let it go.
Should. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, doesn't matter the movie. I'm trying to think of a good example.
Paranormal Activity 3, where there's a dog.
If Paranormal
Or
Activity
2, sorry.
3, or 2, yeah, 2's the one where they go after the dog, but the dog disappears, but then there's like a bunch of lightning in the background, and like the masked dog comes back out and fights off the ghost. I'd watch the crap out of that movie. I would own that on Blu-ray. I'd be watching it daily.
Yes.
It turns out the whole Paranormal Activity series was just a secret sequel to The Mask. Speaking of sequels, I understand, like we've just mentioned Son of Mask, and we're not going to talk about that anymore. They did push really hard to try to get a Mask 2.
Yeah.
Which I think was going to probably ride off of the cartoon and kind of be like the mask came back to him or something. But Jim Carrey didn't want to do it, and he was able to kill it because they weren't going to do anybody else.
I wonder why he didn't. Like, did he just want to focus more on Ace Ventura or on, like, Dumb and Dumber? Was he just kind of over the mask character?
I haven't heard anything. I have no idea. I just know he did not want to do a Mask 2, and that's probably for the best.
It is, and like, what more are you going to do other than just rehash exactly the same?
That's the problem. It'd be exactly the same movie again. It'd be, a different mobster or whatever, unless maybe that's the movie where they were going to try to have Loki and Odin show up, and possibly Thor. Why not have Thor show up?
Or they could have like some evil masks from their home planet of Maskatron, and then they could all fight, like in Superman 2 or whatever. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad they didn't do a sequel. I don't think it would have worked out very well.
Yeah.
But all right, so I think I don't want to talk about The Mask anymore. It's so sad. I liked the movie so much, and I was really gonna look forward to it, and then I watched it for Hero Talk, and this isn't as good as I remember it. I should have left well enough alone.
I was really excited to watch it again, and the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, what am I gonna say on Hero Talk? What's my favorite scene? I was like Googling scenes to try and remind myself, okay, what scene did I really like? But the thing is, I don't dislike it. It's just, if it's on TV and there's nothing else on, I might watch it, but I would never intentionally go, I'm going to watch The Mask now. And that's kind of sucks.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And we got to blame someone for having to watch it, Greg, and I guess we'll blame you.
That's about par for the course.
I got to cut in there because I think it was my idea because it popped up on Netflix.
Yeah, I think
I do think it was your idea. Yeah.
You should totally do The Mask.
That does sound familiar. Yeah. Well, listen, when we eventually do Hook, I will totally take the fall for Hook. But
I've never seen it, so I'm going into that one blind.
Yeah, no, I just recently watched it, so I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance for making you watch it.
Okay.
And there we go.
Spoilers.
And now we got some sequel bait for Hero Talk. That's a teaser, I think is what they call that in the business.
I like
teased a future Hero Talk. Might not be the next one.
Stay tuned.
But you have something to look forward to. So all of you out there in Hero Talk land, if you want to watch Hook so that you'll know what we're talking about, I think it's still on Netflix, but it's not going to be on there much longer.
In the U.S.?
In the U.S., yeah. It is on Amazon Prime.
I should probably do that, because I don't think it's on Netflix here.
Anyway, so now's the time on Hero Talk we have to say what our favorite part of the movie was. So Jen, I'm going to go right to you.
I think there's two things that really stand out, and I'm just going to go with both. I know I have to pick one, but whatever. Anyway, I really, really cracked up the most, I think, at him pulling out the condom, because I'm not the most mature person.
That's correct, yes.
And something like that's always going to make me giggle, but it hit me so much because I never would have known what that was, what kind of a joke it was. I wouldn't have laughed. It just made no sense to me as a kid. And it was kind of cool seeing something new as an adult in a movie that I had seen countless times.
Yeah.
So I love that. But I think overall, as far as like a proper scene, my favorite was probably near the end where Milo ends up with a mask on, and there's that whole like climax building of like, are the good guys going to be okay, and is the dog going to get hurt, and are they going to take down the bad guy? It's just that part is really, really fun, and I love that whole scene. And then when he gets flushed down, it's really funny.
Yeah.
So I love that whole part.
That was really funny. it was an interesting take on trying to like finally put all that to bed. But yeah. No, I can see you there. All right, Jeff, we'll go with you. What's your favorite part of The Mask?
For me, it's as somebody who complained about the fact that there's a lot of impressions and stuff in it. I feel silly saying this, but honestly, the deaths, the drawn out Academy Award winning death sequence towards the end, and the coughing in the audience, like that gag was so good. The film was almost unworthy of it.
Yeah.
How
wasn't the gangster crying? Well, he
yes.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, he was.
Yeah. No, just everything, including that walking off the wrong way. Like the attention to detail in it and the performances were all like just spot on. And I like when I like when movies do that sort of suspension of reality for fiction.
I think Dorian kind of looks at everyone watching, and he like kind of straightens up and smiles, and like, oh, I'm a good guy, I swear. Like he kind of straightens up. But yeah, all of that's really funny.
Yeah, that was I think I hate to do this because this is probably the second time it's happened on Hero Talk. My favorite part was the same as Jen's, but I think I will have to narrow it down. Specifically, Milo Mask was my favorite part of this movie. I think I would love to see a sequel just about Milo as the Mask. I'm saying about any time a dog's in peril, I want the Mask to show up in that movie, regardless of what movie it is. I think it's a great resolution to it. Plus, I just love to see Milo because Milo definitely he showed those guys who was who.
Oh yeah, and he's not this big tough dog either. He's not.
That's what I love. He's got he's still tiny Jack Russell Terrier with like giant pit bull face, which I think is probably the best part of it. He's got this like giant
big tongue hanging out.
Yeah, well, it makes sense with the Mask when you think about it, because the Mask takes internal to you and it projects that out. So it takes Stanley's outgoing cartooniness and projects that out. Takes Dorian's evilness, projects it out. And anybody who's ever owned a small dog knows they think they're big dogs.
Oh yeah.
So it took that and projected that out, and it's like, now I'm the big dog, and I can do all the big dog stuff. And it also made him probably a little more intelligent. Although Milo was pretty intelligent, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah. He gets him out of the jail cell.
He does. He gets him out of jail.
Yep.
Yeah.
He saved the day a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta love Milo. And I think any Milo scene is my favorite part of this movie, because I'm having a real hard time not seeing the scene where Stanley Ipkiss is trying to like hide all the money, and Milo grabs the frisbee and they have to kind of ad-lib off one another. You know, because totally unscripted, you have Jim Carrey and a Jack Russell Terrier playing off each other, and I don't know how that could not be my favorite scene either. I'm gonna have two favorite scenes in this movie. For a movie that I'm so lukewarm on.
I know.
The parts I like, I do love. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It just kind of goes to show, like, there was so much strong going for it, but then too many dance numbers.
Yes.
This movie made a ton of money, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Like, the budget was not all that high, and partly because Jim Carrey saved him a ton of money on special effects.
Mm-hmm. And then didn't get paid enough for it.
And then, barely got paid.
It was a ton of money. I would think I was rich with that.
I'm not going to shed too many tears for somebody making $450,000 for less than a year's work. I'm not going to feel
bad for him, no. But yeah.
But still, I mean, considering that, and Ace Ventura came out before this movie did. So basically this movie got to benefit from his name recognition as Jim Carrey without having to pay him for that name recognition because he wasn't as famous when they signed him up for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they had a couple of factors in their favor, not just as being the Mask, but being able to say Jim Carrey as the Mask and having that actually mean something.
Right, instead of just this like little comic that's kind of up and coming.
Right, but so anyway, as I look over, the budget was $23 million, and the box office was $350 million. So I'm gonna call that a success. I'm surprised with those numbers they didn't push with a sequel and just replace Stanley Ipkiss.
I think they must have realized that
who could have even tried.
It took them till 2005 to even like take the risk on trying it with somebody else, and that spectacular failure. So
did that movie fail? Did Son of the Mask? I'm gonna look that up real quick.
If it didn't, then
all right. So Son of the Mask, the budget was $84 million, and the box office was $57 million.
Oh,
I can't believe it made that. That's crazy.
57. I mean, what is 57? Is that just baseline? Is that just like the minimum amount of money that a movie makes when it makes a regular release? Because they basically, I think this is the way I think it works. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm talking about here, and I'll admit that. But I'm pretty sure a theater pays the movie studio for the use of the movie. And then it's kind of up to the theater to sell enough tickets and popcorn and soda in order to recoup that money and then make a profit. So I think the studio, as long as a movie brings it in, like, the theater is going to pay their money. And so the studio will always make something, but then they really make the money when the movie is so popular that people continue going to it and places carry it longer. Again, I don't know if that's how it actually works, but that's in my head what sounds right, and I'm going with it.
It does sound right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's something like that at least.
Yeah. But so now I just glanced, and I apologize for this, at the Son of Mask cast. So Alan Cumming was Loki. Any guess who Odin was?
Bob, I just saw that before. Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins. One of my favorite actors of all time, the late Bob Hoskins, was Odin.
Yeah.
Oh, so sad. I love Bob Hoskins. Also in Hook. See? Still teasing it. Still teasing
it.
Yeah, he's Smee, isn't he? Yeah.
He is Mr. Smee. Longtime fans of Hero Talk will remember him from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was I really like that we did a Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I like that we did it before he passed, because we heaped a ton of praise on him for that role. And it was enough so I had to re-record an opening for it just to let people know, like, hey, so this was recorded before he passed, because I didn't want it to seem cheap, like, oh, well, now that he's passed, we're big fans. I wanted to let people know, like, hey, we were always big fans. This was, it was good to get a bit of a tribute to him, because it's always hard when you have, like, an actor or somebody who's, like, really prominent pass away, because, this being the movie pop culture TV podcast, like, do I do a special episode for him? And I mean, I'm on the fence with it. I did the Spock one, but
hey, you could always consider doing a Super Mario Brothers episode of Hero
No.
Would that be your tribute?
That will not be my tribute. I think the Roger Rabbit one stands as my tribute. Though Mario Brothers is on the table, because holy cow, I can't imagine not doing Hero Talk on Mario Brothers or something. But, alright, so I think I've killed enough time. I think we can move on. Now we gotta give this movie a score. Once again, we at Hero Talk would like to remind you out there that scores are stupid, and they don't matter, and they're only for people who don't even bother to listen to what you have to say about the film in the first place. That being said, Jeff, what would you score The Mask?
I'm going to stick with the usual out of 5, and I'm going to give this 2 Zoot Suits out of 5.
Now the question is, are they yellow Zoot Suits?
Of course, yes. Yeah.
I hear that was also Jim Carrey's choice, the yellow Zoot Suit.
Oh, wow.
Apparently his mother... Now, listen, I read this online, and we've already established that just because I read it online doesn't necessarily mean it's true, and that I'll basically believe anything I read on Wikipedia as absolute truth, but his mother made him a similar suit for his stand-up when he was first starting out, and he just kind of thought it'd be funny for the Mask to be wearing a yellow suit.
I like that.
Yeah, out of all the other... Now, in the cartoon, he almost exclusively wears the yellow suit, but in this movie, he wears a ton of different stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the yellow suit's my favorite. It's clearly the most iconic. It's on all the movie posters. But yeah. So Jen, what would you give The Mask?
I am going to, and I apologize if you were going to use this cute little reference here too. I'm going to give it 3 Jack Russell Terriers wearing masks out of 5.
That's fair enough. So here's what I'm going to give The Mask. You can take your own meaning from this. I will give it 1 smokin' out of Somebody Stop Me.
I love that one.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. It's awesome.
That deserves to go on the back of the DVD case.
Yep.
Yes.
You guys, when this thing comes out for its anniversary, and you're looking for all those quotes from critics to put on it, go ahead and put that on there. Just put that in quotes, like smoking out of Somebody Stop Me. Put a little quote underneath, and you can write Judge Greg, and nobody will know who you're talking about except for my loyal, rabid fan base of at least half a dozen people.
And growing every day.
We soon to be a dozen, hopefully. Please tell your friends about Hero Talk.
Please do.
Please. Tell your friends. Have them listen.
We sound so pathetic.
Rate us on iTunes, please.
Pretty please.
Could you please rate us on iTunes and download?
You can't see me, but I'm pouting right now.
Yeah. Could you please?
And batting my eyelash.
Maybe Point Streak too. I don't know. I don't give a crap about Point Streak, but tell your friends about Hero Talk.
And the attic.
And the attic. Point Streak's your cross to bear, Jeff. Listen, I got my own stuff going on over here.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I'm just going to point one less fact out before we close this out. So Vanessa Williams, who was thought to be one of the roles for Tina Carlisle, does have a track on the soundtrack.
Really?
Yeah. So
I
that's
didn't
all.
know that.
Yeah, that's all I have. Jim Carrey's on the soundtrack. He's Cuban Pete. Like, I think a couple of different versions of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go. That's it. All right. So that was The Mask, and mercifully, this one's over. And hopefully, if prayers are truly answered, this will actually have recorded, and I'll have a finished episode by the time we're done here. If not, then we're gonna do this a third time, and we're gonna make it count, people. All right. So, Jeff, Jen, hey, thanks for being on Hero Talk.
Thanks for having us.
No problem.
All right, another fun episode. On behalf of my panel, I just want to thank everyone out there for listening. If you want to listen to any more of our podcasts, including the highly acclaimed, by somebody I'm sure, Point Streak podcast. Somebody out there must have highly acclaimed it at some point in time. We have positive reviews on iTunes. Somebody has to have said something nice about Point Streak. Yes. And it's out there. And if you want to be as cool as that person.
And if you're a gamer.
I know, this is not the gamer podcast, but if you're a gamer and you want to learn about gaming and the issues that concern gamers, did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. For a podcast on gaming and the issues that concern gamers, you need to check out Point Streak, which is on every other week, and it's a great way to kill time between Hero Talks. Also, if you're interested in horror and all things horror related, you can check out The Attic, which is on Enthusiacs.com every Monday, and all our other content, including our YouTube channel, where Axelon, king of the Let's Plays, has at least 4 to 5 videos up every single day. I'm not really sure what his day job is, but at this point I'm convinced it's actually playing video games and posting them on YouTube. We are on Twitter at Enthusiacs. We're on Facebook, Enthusiacs. YouTube is Enthusiacs again. We are not on Instagram. I just joined Instagram. I don't think I'm going to stay on Instagram. I just realized there's nothing much on Instagram for me.
You're supposed to take pictures of the food that you eat every day.
That I picked up, yes.
Selfies.
That doesn't sound like something that would really rope Greg in, to be honest.
That's Instagram.
That's what I've learned.
And food.
Instagram is selfies and food. And
yes.
I don't like to take pictures of my... Listen, food is business for me, all right? And I'm not going to stop and take pictures because when it's food time, it's business time.
Just get it done.
Yeah, it's time to go to work. So, but anyway, I'm on Instagram. If you can find me, you can follow me. I'm not going to post any pictures of anything, so I don't really see why you would, but I'm there. Anyway, I don't really know why I'm talking about my Instagram, but the really important part is that all of you come right back here for the next Hero Talk.